So we're going to be in Hebrews chapter number 9, verse number 27. And so what came upon this message is like I was in the gym like Monday, and it was 5:30 in the morning. And in this gym, it's this rock music that plays. It's called Z-Rock or something like that. It's not the best music, to be honest with you. But it's what's always on in there, and you can't change it because the old woman that runs it puts the music on. But they said a very cynical statement. I was like, wow, this is one way to start the morning. This radio station had a pre-recording, and it says, "Good morning, you're one day closer to dying." And so I was at 5:30 in the morning. I was like, wow, that's a way to start the morning right there. That's a way to start it. As a reminder that I'm one day closer to dying. That kind of made me depressed right there. I was like, goodness gracious, I can't even go to the gym without being bombarded by some depressing stuff like that. And then my favorite song kept coming on this week, which I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit because I'm going to read some of the lyrics. But it's my absolute favorite song. I'm going to get it played at my funeral. No, it's not a Christian song. It's a country song. But ain't nothing wrong. And the Bible verse that we're going over is Hebrews chapter number 9, verse number 27. Now, in the broader context of this passage, this is not exactly what Hebrews is talking about. Hebrews is talking about God Jesus coming back again and judging and stuff like that. But in Hebrews chapter number 9, verse number 27, it said, "And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment." So I remember the first time I ever seen this Bible verse. It was at a mercy, what's it called? The judgment house, the one that they do at Harmony. And I seen this verse. They try to use it, to scare you and to get you saved. But this is a very true verse. It says, "And as it is appointed," it says that everybody is appointed. Everybody has an appointment. And it's not like a doctor's appointment that you can just call, "Hey doc, I got something going on. I got to cancel or reschedule." There's no rescheduling this appointment. There's no rescheduling. There's no postponing. There's no just not showing up. This appointment is appointed to every one of us. It says, "And as it is appointed unto men." Now this isn't just men like, the gender men. It's the human race, mankind. No one is exempt from this appointment. It says, "And as is appointed unto men." And we're not getting out of it. It says, "once to die." Now, also, this verse can be used to contradict, how people say that once you die, you live another life here on the earth, reincarnation. Well, this verse says you only die once. It says once to die. So we have an appointment, every one of us, to die. And it says, "But after this, the judgment." Now, this can be used kind of as a scary way, like I first really read it. But in the next verse, it also talks about Jesus coming back for his people, not judging them, but actually saving them. And so one day we will die, but guess what? We will have another life. We will have heaven. We'll have something far more greater. But the question that I always get posed with when I read this is, what am I doing before my appointment? What am I doing to get ready for my appointment? If I have an appointment, a special appointment, I'm going to get in the shower. I don't want to go stinking. I'm going to put on some deodorant, brush my teeth. I'm going to do all these things. What are we doing to be ready for our appointment? We know it's going to come. What are we doing to get ready for it? And what have we done in the past that's not getting ready for it? When I was in the gym that morning and they said, "You're one day closer to dying." That was kind of depressing, but it's also kind of eye-opening, In life, we need sometimes to remind us that we're not the exception to the rule and that death is coming. Death is waiting on our doorstep. I look back throughout my life, and I've wasted a lot of time that I could be helping people with Jesus, telling people about Jesus, helping people get right with Jesus. I have done things that I'm ashamed of and haven't done the right things in this time that God has given to me. I wish that we had a time clock, a wristwatch on our hands that counted down until our appointment time. Because I think we would be so much wiser if we really realized how much time we have here on this earth. I think the devil likes to blind us and think that we have eternity here. This is not eternity. Eternity is somewhere else. I want to read you, this is going to be a very short sermon, by the way. But I'm going to read you my favorite song. I'm going to read you my favorite song lyrics. It says, he said I was in my early 40s with a lot of light before me. And a moment came that stopped me on a dime. Looking at the x-rays, talking about the options, and talking about sweet time. I asked him when it sank in that this might really be the real end. How does it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, what'd you do? Does anybody know the song? He said I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. And I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denied. And he said, someday, I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. He said, I was finally the husband that most of the time I wasn't. And I became a friend would like to have. And all of a sudden, going fishing wasn't such an imposition. And I went 3 times that year I lost my dad. I finally read the good book, and I took a good, long, hard look at what I could do if I could do it all again. And then I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. And I loved sweeter. And I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denied. And he said, someday, I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. Like tomorrow was a gift, and you've got eternity to think about what you would do with it, what you could do with it. That song, when you really think about it, it's very deep. At first he was talking about his, fun things that, he would like to do. He went skydiving, he went on a bull, and he spent 2.7 seconds on the bull. And then he got to the real nitty-gritty where he was like, I started to love people more. I started to speak sweeter. I started to be the husband that I should have been, the friend that I should have been. We never know when our appointment's going to be. Amen. But we also never know when someone else's appointment's going to be. And I've said things that if certain people were to pass away the very next second, I'd be kind of sad that I said it. I think we've all said things and done things that we really, really would regret if it was our appointment or that other person's appointment time. And so I really want that song played at my funeral.
Didn't Tim McGraw sing that?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know the fake Beatles who sang that. I don't know that Tim McGraw.
But I really want that song played at my funeral. Because I want people, I always said there's 2 occasions that I really like going to. There's really one occasion that I really like going to. And this might sound very cynical, but I like going to funerals. And it's not, this might sound weird, but I really like going to funerals because at that moment, I get a realization that one day I'll be right there. What am I going to do with the time that I'm allotted before I get in that casket? At every funeral I go to, I can realize myself there. And I say, Malachi, you only have a short amount of time. I was told by Mr. Lee, he always cuts my hair. He's Miss Pat's grandson, And he always tells me, he says, Malachi, it was just like I was in high school, yesterday. He said, once you get out of high school, life just goes by so fast. You know, as scary as I'm fixing to be out of high school, life's going to go so fast.
It will.
And, you know, in the book of James, it says our life is like a vapor. It really makes me ashamed when I think about the subject, the time that I've wasted. The time that I've spent with sinful things instead of spending with my Savior. The times that I could have helped people that I really didn't get to help. I'm reminded of people that I helped and people that I didn't help. I told this story this summer, but I knew a kid when I was in like I was in 8th grade. He was this bigger boy, and he was this bigger boy. He was real stinky. Nobody really liked him, and you know, I tried to be friends with him in 8th grade. And then me and him became real close. Before we let out of school that year, he said, "Malachi, you know, you're my only friend." And then I got a call during the summer that he died and passed away of diabetes. You know, I asked him beforehand if he knew Jesus. He said, "Yes, I did." You know, I had an impact in his life. And it's not something I brag about. It's just I think about that time that I had an impact in his life. But then I think about a teenager that I was sitting in junior year with in music class. And I never really said anything to him. And I really felt like I should have said something to him. And I didn't really ever realize why I, felt like I should say something to him about Jesus. Well, I never did. But his kid last year died in a car wreck on the highway. But I never mentioned Jesus to him. So theoretically, I could say that his blood is on my hands. I don't live with that guilt, but I'm just saying, theoretically, I could have told him about Jesus. I could have made an impact in his life. But guess what? It was his appointment time. We never know when someone else's appointment is going to be, and we never know when the doctor's going to call our name, too. I always used to wait when I was sick. I haven't been to the doctor's office in a while. Thank God I haven't been sick for a while. But I always used to be in the waiting room, and I'd be coughing or feeling bad or whatever. And then I would love when the doctor would just hurry up and call my name. But the truth is, the good doctor, is going to call everyone's name. And while that's a time for rejoicing, it's also something that we should very seriously consider how we use our time and how we're loving people and how we're spending our time with Jesus and how we're getting to know Jesus better and how we're starting to, death is really an eye-opener to the way that we live our lives. And I don't want to get to the end of my life and be ashamed of what I've done. I don't want to get to the end of my life and be ashamed that I haven't told people about Jesus. I've spent more time in sin and doing things that I know I shouldn't have done than time doing the Lord's work. I don't want to get to the end of I don't want to be at somebody's funeral and realize I should have said something to them about Jesus. It's something that we should very much consider as Hopewell Baptist Church. I think that we would greatly benefit if, like Tim McGraw said, if everyone in here lived like they were dying. The song says, "I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying." And it's a blessing to realize that you're going to die one day. Because you are ever so grateful of the time that you have here on this earth. And you're ever so considerate of how you spend it. So I hope every one of us get to live like we're dying.